Hi, this is Greg Ehrs, host of Einstein's disease. Are you loving what you're watching? Don't miss a moment of Einstein's disease or any of your other favorite Now Media TV shows. Live or on demand, anytime, anywhere. Download the Now Media TV app on Roku, iOS. Enjoy instant access to our full lineup of bilingual programs in both English and Spanish. Prefer to listen on the go? Catch the podcast version of the show right now on the Now Media TV website, nowmedia.tv. For business and breaking news to lifestyle, culture, and everything in between, Now Media TV is streaming 24/7, ready whenever you are. This is Greg Ehrs, host of Einstein's Disease, and I'm happy to be back with our guest today, Kaitlyn McDonough, CEO of Fit Wellness. We were breaking down in the first segment, Kaitlyn, some of the challenges, some of the areas where you have to break through and either help your clients or your influencers understand that there's maybe a different path and that path leads to better success. And we're going to talk about that in this segment. And as I mentioned to you off camera, what you mentioned with respect to your clients and the desire to have a shiny object be that person that's a spokesperson for the company versus that other object that actually is going to have a higher conversion or more authentic to your brand. You've had to deal with that challenge. We talked about that, but talk to us a little bit about some of the solutions or ways you've found for your company not only to thrive, but to continue to get that strong reputation that you have in this industry, especially in the New England area.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things when we kind of go in with that is, what's the best first move within that solution? So if we come to kind of a roadblock where, a brand is really wanting one specific person and, we're trying to kind of walk through with them why they may not be the best fit for this particular campaign. Um, we'll kind of dive deep into kind of a solution framework with them of showing and breaking down, those specific ROIs that are looking to be achieved, and then taking kind of the key insights within, if we were narrowed down to two specific creators and influencer marketing, you know, their key insights, proof of concepts from other kind of campaigns that they have done in the past. And then really aligning it down to showing in kind of just like a very clear format of why and what most likely will unfold in that campaign if we go, route A with this creator versus if we go route B with this creator. And that has really helped brands to kind of, as we're kind of diving through and we kind of create like a little deck for them of like what we're thinking based off of proof of concepts that we've seen in the past with this creator, based off of similar concepts, that campaign may have versus one they've done in the past, geared with the target audience, that each creator has, and the key insights that they've pulled both within the last 30 days as well as in the last 90 days. Because I think, especially from the brand side and any influencer marketing, those two key pieces of insights are really important to look at because you're able to see in real time what that their community has done in the last month as well as in the last 3 months, and kind of that most likely is going to in a way unfold either a little more increase or a little more decrease within the following month.
No, it makes sense. So on that, on your client side,
Yeah.
in the industry, things have changed dramatically. You mentioned in the first segment how fast this industry has either matured or gone. At least we're in some inning beyond infancy. We're somewhere. We don't know where it's actually going to go. So the metrics and the way that you measure things, you identified initially the top line. Everybody looks at followers, and that doesn't matter. But talk to us a little bit about overcoming that data solution in the sense that I just gave you X amount of money for a campaign, and this was the expectation. I went with the person that you had. I've got some element of conversion in that. Talk to us how you work through that educational process because this is new stuff to a lot of people. I've got a great company, or your clients have great companies, and all of a sudden we're using a different medium or a different channel to make people aware of our brand. So there's something that there's a sense of education, but there's also a sense that everybody in your industry doesn't actually look at measurement the same way. How do you go about that with your clients? Because that's got to be a challenge,
Yeah.
because they're looking at it. They might say, well, I only sold 6 widgets and I spent
Right.
$500. That's not a very good deal, but you have
No.
to work through that.
Yeah, and it's also time too. Like again, it's we've really unfolded in the social media world since, you know, social media really hit back in kind of the early 2000s. And I even say like I'll say to brands, look at the way from the creator and influencer space. I mean, that's evolved dramatically in the last 10 years. Of before it used to be, you know, a, there was no storyline, there was no creative concept, there was really nothing behind it. It was just you would see people who either had a large following or in the celebrity world, they'd post, they'd hold the product, they'd smile, and that was really it. And that was really selling for companies. Like all they needed to do was get their product in the hands of the right person and have them pose in a photograph and it would sell. And that just doesn't work anymore. Like it just is not like that. You really need to be effective storytelling across the board. And a lot of times, what we see do really well is that organic product placement where you can't even tell that reel or that video was an ad. And it just is really diving into that creator of kind of who they are organically and kind of how they've grown. So what we really saw with, those get ready with me videos, there's so many ads that are in get ready with me videos that the consumer doesn't really know, but they are loving the way that it's either being styled or used in the video, and then they're immediately buying it. And that's what we're really seeing in today's world is being super effective is, just these very organic storytelling pieces of content that connects with the consumer in a real and authentic way, but also organically pushes, the brand's product that they're looking to convert.
No, that's really interesting, because you touched on something I want to move over to, which is, and we talked about this through the process. I could stand there and say I hold a product and it would sell, and the company was happy.
Yeah.
And people then started doing five, six, 10 different things, and they got diluted, as you said, or it's not authentic. So you have to help some of these influencers that do have a following and are authentic people, but they just participated as the industry grew. It wasn't their fault that they did 25 things, because you had 25 clients that wanted to book that person. So
Right.
it worked. It's just a change. And it probably has a lot to do with the fact that the generations for which a lot of people target, the 18 to 35 or 18 to 34, whatever it is, you're a lot more suspicious of things because you grew up in this environment. You're like, that's not real. That person doesn't really like this. Whereas people of my generation or below me, we really never identified to that influencer market. We just saw it as advertising. So you've got these influencers or content creators that were successful, and now you've got to rebrand them in some sense, because they still have a following. They're great people. They can tell good stories, but they've got to diminish the amount of people that they're campaigning for, because it doesn't look authentic. How do you go about that with somebody that was a big star and
Yeah.
help bring them back down to saying, you know what, we're just going to do Coke and Rice Krispies? I mean,
Yeah.
not really, but I'm just trying to, where they
Yeah.
used to do
Dive
everything.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always say a rebrand is not a bad thing. And especially kind of as your brand has evolved throughout the years, and it, specifically in the example we're using here, and we've had this happen with, a few clients of ours who, were athletes at the time, specifically like in the CrossFit space. So, they might have gained a lot of their following from being a CrossFit athlete. And that's, really how the number that reflects on the page. That's, as when you're coming in, you don't know when did they grow that following? When did that number get to there? How long have they, sat at that following? A lot of brands don't know those answers. They just know I really like what they're doing. They're resonating with my brand. And so when we have like a creator who we'll start working with who's like, hey, I had this great following, I've had it for around 5, 6 years, kind of now like I've transitioned, I've evolved, I'm in a new space. I kind of want to rebrand to be able to both connect to the audience and community I've grown, but also gain in additional followers as well that kind of now meets me where I am at in my life. And so we really like sit and dive deep into kind of their brands and it's like, okay, like what am I getting? If I come to your page, why would I want to hit the follow button or why would I want to hit the like? What is going to compel me? And that also always goes back to you asking yourself the question when you're scrolling, why do you stop and watch a video? Or why do you stop to like something? Or why do you stop to comment? Like, what is it inside of you that compels you to kind of initiate those kind of key metrics? It's very similar to what's initiating everyone else to do the same. So when you really ask yourself that question, then you're able to kind of unfold a better strategy and better storytelling components and kind of strategic concepts because people want, information. I would say, especially the younger generation, like they're they are compelled to kind of want to dive deeper into understanding individuals, where kind of in different generation, it was kind of quick, like they didn't kind of care so much to kind of learn and unfold people's stories. But what we've even seen with, reality TV shows, people get really connected to people and they feel like they know them. They feel like they understand them. And so that they then now are invested. And once you get somebody invested in you and invested in your story and invested in your life, they want to know all areas and all components and they follow it religiously, especially the younger generation. And so kind of that's the same key I will take with creators. Like, yeah, maybe you weren't on a reality TV show, but how you're creating your content is similar in which we want people to be invested in you and we want people to care about all aspects of your life. And there's a level of privacy we always tell people, like, you don't want people involved in every aspect of your life. So, what are you willing and wanting to show? And then, how do we create impactful stories and creative concepts off of those key concepts that they're willing to share?
That is outstanding, Kaitlyn. The solutions for your clients in the educational process, the solutions for rebranding, those are the challenges that we're going to continue to face going forward, that we're going to talk about in the next segment, which is a big challenge for you, which is the advent and the explosion of AI in the influencer space. But with that, we're going to cut away for our pay for this show and hear from our sponsors. It's Greg Ehrs, host of Einstein's Disease, with Kaitlyn McDonough, CEO of Fit Wellness, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you, Kaitlyn.
Problem.